Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay, a podcast focusing on meditation, the near-death experience, and all things spiritual. Hello, this is Inspire Me with Jay. My special guest is Dr. Lynn Anderson. Lynn, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jay. I'm delighted to be here.
So you work with yoga, and what do you do with yoga specifically?
Well, I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm also a certified yoga therapist. So I've been around for quite a while, written a lot of books, and have been teaching and writing about karma yoga for over 30 years. So I'm what you would consider a karma master.
So how do you help people with yoga? Do you help people with different problems and ailments with the practice of yoga?
Yeah, yoga is a science. It's a philosophy and it's a science. And when it's approached that way, we approach it with, of course, the philosophical part of it. And then the science part of it comes in with a lot of the physical. So it can help people to, of course, reduce stress, can help with back problems, can help to with stretching, with balance, with flexibility, all of those things, and also to mentally help people to get into a better state and philosophically look at things maybe in a different way in life.
So how does a person start yoga if they've never done yoga at all?
Well, the best thing to do is to find a beginner yoga class and start with kind of learning the physical part. Usually the beginning is what's called hatha. And what hatha means is physical. It means that you come to a class and you're really there to learn the basic poses of yoga. Then yoga has many branches that it goes into. And of course, one of those branches is karma. And that's when we bring in the science and the philosophy of karma yoga and add it to the hatha yoga.
And what do you specifically do with karmatic yoga? When people start,
Karma?
yeah.
Well, karma is a very misunderstood notion. Most people talk about karma. They talk about bad karma and good karma. Karma has nothing to do with bad and good, because bad and good would superimpose judgment. And karma and yoga is not about judgment. It's about being able to observe life and then make the adjustments and the changes which allow you as an individual to live a balanced, flexible, strong, and peaceful life. So with karma, it's really more about cause and effect. What you do, what you send out into the world is going to come back in the same kind of energy will come back. So if I send out negative energy into the world, and let's say I send that negative energy towards you, Jay, you may not send that back to me. It may not directly come back to me that way, but that energy is out there and it's going to circle around, and somehow negative energy is going to come back and affect my energy field, because that's what I'm creating.
Mm-hmm. What is the connection between yoga and meditation? Because a lot of this sounds similar to like mindfulness, observing the world around you.
Right. Well, yoga is, again, it's a science and it's a philosophy, and it's about, sort of moving the body. Now, meditation is a part of that. Meditation is simply about quieting your mind. It's not about emptying your mind. People think you have to have this totally empty mind. It's not about that at all. In fact, that's almost impossible for human beings to do. But it's about quieting the mind and getting to that place where you can focus on perhaps your breathing. You're focused on being quiet, on being still. And that brings you to that meditative state. And we incorporate, in most yoga classes, will incorporate meditation into their class.
Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone, How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn, mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6-star rating, available on Amazon. So, do you do meditation yourself personally?
I do, and I have. Meditation, though, we think that we have to sit in some place really quiet and close our eyes and breathe and meditate. That's not necessarily meditation. I'll give you an example. I teach cycle classes, spin classes, and in all of my spin and cycle classes, I do something which is called going to the zone. And I try to put people in that state where they close their eyes and their body is just moving. And you're not thinking about anything, but you're just in the moment. And that's really what meditation is about. It's being in the moment. It's those aha moments where you're just there. That's a form of meditation. But the problem is most of us are running around in a hurry, and we miss those moments. And we miss that, wow, what a beautiful day. We miss that. So meditation, to discipline yourself to sit and clear your mind, is probably the best way for someone to meditate.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they also have movement meditation where they have like walking meditations that I've started to hear about too.
Excuse me. Yeah, that is true. So you can cycle, you can walk, you could be walking and have your mind really clear and breathing, and you're one in the moment. That's what meditation is all about. It's about sort of bringing yourself into the present moment. And that, again, is a difficult thing for people to do. We have what's called monkey mind, choo, 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 like a monkey jumping from tree to tree. Mind's all over the place. Got to bring it in.
So what are a lot of the clients that you see? Do some people come in and say, I would rather do yoga than meditation because they want movement and it's hard for them to sit still? Is that sometimes why they're attracted to yoga?
Mostly, I would say mostly, yes. Now, if you're talking about yoga therapy, oftentimes that's people with either they're dealing with some mental issues, or they're dealing with some physical issues, and that's why they're coming to yoga. That's the basis. I'm not able to sleep. I'm depressed or anxious, or my back hurts, or I'm have been diagnosed with cancer and I'm in treatment. So people, that's the therapeutic part of it. But mostly people will come to a yoga class, and I've always found that my students and clients who come, they're searching for something, but they don't know what they're searching for, and they've heard that yoga is good for you. Haven't a clue, but heard it's good for you.
Mm-hmm. How long does it usually take to see results? Like if you're having issues with sleeping or different mental or physical issues, what's usually the timetable?
It all depends upon the teacher and the student, because when they come together, teacher and student, you can go to a yoga class and you can be doing calisthenics, and I have been to yoga classes where the teacher was just doing her thing, and that's not really what yoga is. So it's a matter of, if you connect with the right teacher at the right time, you will have something that day. And I'll give you an example of that. I have taught, I've been teaching for 30 years, so I've been around the block. And I can't tell you the number of times that I would teach my yoga class, and we always have a part of the philosophy I always bring to the class. People who would come up to me after class and say, how did you know that was what I needed today? How did you know that I was bothered by that and it really made a difference today? Now, I didn't know that. I've got 50 people in the room. I have no idea. But that resonated out there, and that person was in the right place at the right time, and they were listening.
Mm-hmm. So what is some of the philosophy that yoga is based on?
Well, the fundamental of yoga is to do no harm. But that's wide stretching. We think do no harm. There's a story I like to tell my students, and it's about a yogi who was meditating in the woods. And this beautiful deer went jumping by in the woods, and the yogi just looked at that deer and said, "My God, what a beautiful, magnificent animal, how beautiful it's leaping through the woods." Along comes a hunter, and he says to the yogi, "Have you seen the deer?" Now, if the yogi says, "Yes, I saw the deer, it went that way," the deer is going to get killed and there's going to be harm. But if the yogi doesn't tell the hunter won't be able to get meat to feed its family for the winter. So what does the yogi do? And that brings it all the way around to, you always do the greatest good for the greatest many. And that's when it comes down to do no harm. We have to take a step back and say, what is the greatest good I can do for the greatest many? And that's the basic philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's kind of similar to in philosophy of utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number.
Yes, somewhat like that. Yes, because it's very easy, for me to say to you, well, okay, tell the truth, Jay. I want you to tell the truth. Well, the truth has a spectrum to it, because the truth is not black and white,
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to kind of look at these things, and then you always have to come back to, you're trying not to do any harm. That's harm the universe, harm nature, harm other people. That's the basis, is not to do harm. But then you have to also think about protecting your family. If my family needs protection and something is coming after my family, then I'm going to kill or get rid of that, whatever it is, if I can do that. So I've created harm, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in yoga, I've done the greatest good for the greatest many. I've protected my family. So so when that's what yoga is. It wants you to think, wants you to be aware, wants you to bring in all of the different elements of life and dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's like most of the time, the answer would probably be very obvious and clear, but there's some situations where you really have to think through it, and you may still get the wrong answer.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes. But at least you're thinking it through. At least you are pondering it, and not what many people do is just fly from one thing to the next. And the consciousness, it's just they block that off. And it's just, because human nature is to want more. Human nature is to, try to claw your way up to the top. That is human nature. There's, good and bad in the world, or negative and positive energy. There's destruction and creation. We have to kind of see where those things go.
Mm-hmm. But sometimes, probably with yoga and with meditation, you can have moments of clarity where you can see things more clear than when you're in your just day-to-day living.
And that is what the discipline is about, because the discipline really is, if I sit here and you and I teach you, I talk about balance. Let's say I'm going to talk about balance, and I'm going to talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. And you're going to go, yeah, 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 yeah. It's very different when I challenge you and I put you in a pose and I call upon you to find balance, and what you have to do with your mind and your body at that moment. So that's why the practice of yoga, because it's taking the time out and stepping back and focusing on those things, because we don't focus on balance, flexibility, strength, and peace throughout the day. We're too busy working and going and family and all of that kind of stuff But when you pull back and you give yourself an hour to really focus on just the basics, makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in terms of do no harm, that would pretty much be in alignment with virtually every religion. And to some extent, the golden rule just phrases it in a positive where it's try to help people as you would want them to help you, which is similar.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I mean, yes, every philosophy and religion, which yoga is not a religion, but religions, Buddha, all of it, Zen, Buddhism, Taoism, all of it is really about finding within yourself that way to be peaceful and to be loving and to be compassionate and kind towards everyone and everything. And it's a wonderful way to live, but it's not human. Human nature has another side to it. And, humans can do horrific things. They destroy things. So it's trying to learn to live your life that way, but understanding not everybody lives their life that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does seem like I've come to the conclusion that, like with meditation, you do have the mental health aspect, but it's kind of hard to totally escape the philosophical and spiritual ramifications, because you get into things like compassion and peace. You're getting into not just things that help your mental health, but also affect your philosophical and spiritual perspective.
Exactly. And how you interact with other people. It's very easy when someone says something that upsets us, it's very easy to have your trigger go off and get upset. It takes tremendous work to take a step back and practice some compassion, because everybody, if you are a human being, you feel anxious, you felt depressed, you felt sad, you felt happy, you felt disappointment. That's part of being a human. And that's what karma teaches us, is you're here for this human experience, and all of these things are part of all of us. So, instead of jumping in and combating with another person, takes a lot of work to step back and go, wow, that person must be having a bad day. That person must be, in a bad place. I know what that feels like. I'm going to send out compassion rather than, react with anger. It takes a lot of work.
Do you do more one-on-one with people, or do you teach more of a class or group sessions?
I've done both. Primarily, I'm teaching classes right now, but I do offer one-on-one. A lot of times that's more in the therapeutic side of things. People are really wanting the yoga therapeutic part of it, as opposed to just the physical class part of it. But all of my classes, no matter where I teach or how I teach, I always bring part of the philosophy to the class, because I remind them that when we practice yoga, we bring our bodies, our minds, and our souls. And as a naturopathic doctor and a yoga therapist, we believe that you need to work and balance all three of those if you want to have perfect health, because you are a tripart being, your body, mind, and soul. So if you come to my class and I just work on your body and neglect your mind and your soul, I haven't done my job.
So it's like a naturopathic doctor. Do you deal a lot with healing people through nutrition and herbal remedies and things like that?
Naturopathic doctors are teachers. And so what we do is we teach the science of natural living. So if I was working with someone, they would tell me what it was that was their particular issue, whether it was dietary or sleep or whatever the issue is that they're dealing with. And I would teach them things that they could do in order to balance that out, or remove the anxiety. So what I do is I'm a teacher. I'm not healing anybody. It's up to the individual to do that to themselves. You heal yourself. For example, I can give you a great diet plan, and if you don't eat it, it's not any good, right? I can't force it on you. But if I give it to you and you take it home and you eat it, then you are really, who's healing who? I'm just teaching you how to do it. And you're now doing the healing. And we have far more ability to heal and take care of ourselves than we really realize.
Mm-hmm. Do a lot of the people that come for naturopathic medicine also work with traditional medicine at the same time, or?
They do. Yeah, I have, for example, I might have someone who is dealing with cancer, let's say. And so they might come for a yoga therapy, but they might get a little bit of want some of the naturopathy too. So yes, people, and I have also worked with traditional doctors, worked in conjunction with them. And I always say that the best way to go is to work with your primary care doctor, because that's the doctor that can draw your blood, run all of the tests and all of that kind of stuff that needs to be done. And that's very valuable information. And they are one aspect of your health care. Another would be to go to a naturopath, or you could go to a nutritionist or take an exercise class. They work in conjunction together.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's like the full picture of what a naturopath does in terms of, like, we know diet and nutrition. Is there any other things that you do as a naturopath to work with people?
Yeah, yes. Well, basically, I started out as an herbalist, and I created herbal nectars and wrote books about them. So that was kind of where I started. I'm also a master aromatherapist. So I went to work, I was the corporate educator for an international aromatherapy company. And as such, I traveled all over the world, lecturing and teaching on aromatherapy. So as a naturopath, we use all of the sciences, which would be aromatherapy, herbology, light, sunlight or lights in your environment, how they affect you, color, how colors affect you, sound and music. These are all the natural sciences. They are all the things that we don't think about, but they are bombarding us either in a positive or a negative way every single day. For example, if you go out and there's honking of horns and traffic and people yelling and all of that noise, that's noise, but that's really discordant to an individual, right? So, but if I put on some really nice soothing music, and I know what that beat's going to do to your mind and your body, bring down your blood pressure, it's a different experience. So a naturopath would use all of those different things, those different modalities. That's what we learn. And we would teach you how to use those, how to take color and surround yourself with a color that's going to, do what you are trying to do.
Is there an herbal remedy that relates to virtually every drug therapy? Because I remember there used to be a radio show years ago I listened to in a different area, and people would call up and say, I have this problem. And they'd say, take this, this, and that. And it seemed like, was there an herbal remedy that can connect to do everything a drug can do?
Well, if we go way, way back, Mother Nature gave us the pharmacy. That's where it all started. Prehistoric man didn't have medicine. We didn't have the drugs that we have today. And so in cultures, they had different herbs that they use for different things. Different foods have medicinal properties. They all are medicinal. The problem with herbs and plants is that they're grown in different parts of the world, and they're grown under different conditions. So you can't control the substance. That's why pharmaceuticals came along, because pharmaceuticals, you can take a chemical and you can make a pill. But we also have to understand that herbs are plants, they're living organisms. You are a living organism. And so anytime you put a living organism, such as a plant, into your body, it's supporting the health of your body. Anytime you put a chemical, which is what pharmaceuticals are, into your body, what happens? That chemical does not do anything to support the health of your body. Doesn't mean you maybe don't need the support of that, but you also need the support of a good, healthy diet as well.
Well, it's sort of like a lot of times pharmaceuticals try to extract a certain element that you get from an herb and maybe make it much stronger, which in a sense can be very helpful, very power packed, but then can have side effects too. So it's kind of, you know.
Right. Well, we see that today with cannabis. We can see that in what's going on in there. Once the pharmaceuticals can figure out how to control all of that, it'll probably become legal. But cannabis, for example, has been around since the beginning. I mean, it's Mother Nature's plant, and it's been used in cultures for all kinds of medicinal purposes. So that's an example of a really strong medicinal plant. But willow bark was the forerunner to aspirin. That's how they created aspirin, by understanding the chemical makeup of willow bark and how willow bark helped with headaches and body aches, because that's what people used to use. So people forget is that modern pharmaceuticals are not that old. They haven't been around that long, but cannabis been around before you and me. Willow bark before you and me. I mean, all of this existed, and this stuff was here to use medicinally.
So have you had, either with the yoga therapy or with naturopathic medicine, have you had a lot of success with like diabetes?
I have worked with people with diabetes, and of course, diabetes, the two big things is, your diet and exercise. Those things are very, very important. But you also have to know that someone with diabetes, someone with any kind of a disease, there's an anxiety factor that comes in. There's a stress factor that comes in. So that's where, you can sit down with someone with diabetes and say, okay, here's an exercise plan and here's a diet plan for you, and you lay that out. But it's also important to address what the person's going through mentally and soulfully, so that you can bring it all together. So yes, I have worked successfully with people. It is not primarily what I did in my earlier practice. Mostly I worked with people with eating disorders.
And like the eating disorders, is there like a lot of stress connected with it and anxiety too?
Yes. Well, eating disorders really are trying to have a sense of control in what feels like an uncontrollable world. And the bottom line is there's nothing we can control. We can't control anything except our attitude and our beliefs and what we do. We can't control whether the sun's going to come up tomorrow. We hope it does, but we have no control over those things. I mean, the pandemic showed us, but you can control what you put in your body, how you take care of your body, and what you put in your mind and how you take care of your mind. You can control those two things, and your soul. Those can be controlled. So when a person has an eating disorder, what they are trying to do is control what seems uncontrollable out here in the world, in their body, by losing weight, or by an anorexic or bulimic. It's so that they can control. If they can control their weight, if they can keep their weight, then what's going to happen is they feel they have control over the world.
So do you ever have objections, like with yoga, to like people saying, well, this doesn't line up with my religion? Or because some people, like you said, it's not really religious, but a lot of people believe that it's Hinduism and I practice this or that. I can't do that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yes, I've had people, and I've also, in my earlier days, I would always explain to my class that yoga is not a religion, and that tried very hard not to interject any of that in there, because you do have to be sensitive to a lot of people who've come to a yoga class. And I have had people say, I'm not going to go to yoga class because I'm a Christian, or I'm a Jew, or whatever. And I'm like, it's not a religion. So it's all a matter in how you teach it. It's a philosophy, and a philosophy is different than a religion. A religion has dogma. A philosophy is, here's a direction, here's a view of the world, and then it's up to you to come in there and analyze it and interpret it and either incorporate it or reject it.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of like yoga, how long does it usually take? Like, you said like an hour. Do most people have to set aside an hour to start practicing yoga?
Yes, and an hour is not an awfully long time, but it's the right amount of time for someone. We used to teach an hour and a half, and some people still do, and would be really, for the average person, that's much too long. Just being in the class, and also lifestyle. Everybody's busy, and it's really important to carve that time out. So an hour is really what you need, because you're going to have a little meditation at the end. You're going to have a little kind of getting there in the beginning. It's a credenza. It starts here and it goes up here and it comes down, and then it kind of mellows out at the end. So it takes an hour.
Is there a similarity between yoga and like Tai Chi?
Yes and no. Tai Chi, which is Chinese,
Mm-hmm.
is more of the Taoist. It's more of coming from a Taoist philosophy. So, but it has movements. The similarity is that it's really about flexibility and balance and strength and peace and focus in your body. So with Tai Chi, the movements are maybe slower, but they're doing the same thing as yoga, because yoga works on a balancing pose. You do a tree, you're doing a balancing pose.
Mm-hmm. So is it maybe sort of they independently discovered the same kind of truths and movement, and then it's just sort of developed in different cultures?
Yes, I would say. I mean, you could go through every culture, from the American Indians to every culture has its dance, has its movement, has its philosophy. That's all cultures have these things. But if you come in and you look at all of them, whether it be Buddhism or Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or any of those sort of religions, they kind of all come to the same kind of conclusion, that we really should work really hard at being peaceful, loving, generous individuals.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great if everyone could do that.
Yeah. So are there any projects that you're working on currently, or do you have any books that you've written or anything?
Yes, on my website, which is drlynn.com, DOCTORLYNN.com. If you go there, I have 2 series that I've written. One is the Soul Walking series, and the other one is the Naturopathic Health series. And these are all books. There's about 6 of them that I've been written over my career. I teach classes online, so anyone can go on and they can sign up for one of my classes. They're very reasonable. They're $5 a class. I make it so it's available for everybody. Everybody can come and take it. I am lecturing on a couple of online sites now and doing that kind of stuff. I have my own courses that I teach. So I have separate courses and then online yoga courses.
No. Well, thank you for coming on. Is there one last word you'd like to give to the audience before we close out?
Just, think about karma, cause and effect, I mean, it takes work. That's what karma means. We're here to work hard on those good qualities. Number one quality I'll leave you with, be calm. Calmness is a good quality to develop.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jay. It was a pleasure meeting you and being with you on this podcast.
It was a pleasure to have you too.
All right. I'll see you later.